Hello, my name is Simon, and welcome to AFC Bournemouth Analysis. In this preview episode, I'll be looking ahead to our game against Manchester City. Yes, I'm pretty scared. So yeah, I'll start on a positive note. That's always the best way, I find. We obviously won midweek against Birmingham City 2-1. We were 1-0 behind at half-time and it looked pretty grim. We'd conceded from a set piece again. And we just looked overrun. Vassell was causing us all types of problems up front with his pace. We were very lucky not to be 2-0 down. It was only an epic Tyrone Mings clearance off the line that stopped it. But that said, we did turn it around in the second half, and considering the performances in our first two games where we haven't looked like scoring, that's no mean feat. I know Birmingham aren't doing too well in the Championship, but a win is a win. And obviously there was a lot of changes to the team, and there were a lot of players that I think will have staked a claim to start this weekend. I don't think the defence will change too much, even though Tyrone Mings could definitely argue that he looked far more stable than Steve Cook, who again looked shaky. But in midfield it's going to be interesting. I don't think Gosling did himself many favours against Birmingham, but Lewis Cook, I think, even though he wasn't sensational, I'm not going to overblow how great he was, because he wasn't that great. But he was definitely a step up from what we've seen from Andrew Sermon and Harry Arter so far, so I think he's definitely worth a start. Ideally in a midfield 5, I think that's the best way we have a chance of getting a result this weekend. Up front, Defoe started his first game and looked fairly sharp. Obviously didn't score, which is disappointing, but he did have a couple of chances. One was called off for offside. I think it was the right decision. And yeah, he just generally looked quite sharp. I'm not sure he could play up front on his own, so there's so many issues and variables this weekend. I don't know if Eddie Howe's going to stick with 4-4-2 or 4-4-1 if you want to be really picky about it. So yeah, I really don't know who Eddie Howe's going to pick. But I think there were positive signs from the Birmingham game heading into this game against Manchester City. Obviously it's a bit of a step up. Also obviously there's the fact that really it can't get any worse in terms of performances. I think that Watford game was a real low. We saw a fair few bad performances last season, obviously, but in terms of any signs of encouragement, there was very little. Watford were a decent side, but they were definitely a side we shouldn't have capitulated so much to. We were just overrunning that second half, and it could have really been 3 or 4 in all honesty. So yeah, I don't think it can get any worse in terms of performance. Obviously the scoreline could be worse, but in terms of performances, I think the players realised that we're owed a performance. And obviously there's the fact that Manchester City have started the season, if not slowly, not particularly convincingly. They took a while to break a very stubborn Brighton side down in their opening game. And against Everton, obviously they were down to 10 men, but they still drew, which was impressive. I saw some of that game and just Man City looked like the side with 11 players and Everton looked like the team with 10. So even with that in mind, obviously they're not wiping the floor with teams in their first 2 performances, so hopefully we can give them a game at the very least. Yeah, obviously the past record against Man City doesn't make for particularly good reading. We've conceded 15 goals in the 4 Premier League games we played them and only scored once in response, and that was the very first time we played them when we lost 5-1, and that was Glenn Murray who scored, so the player who scored isn't even with us anymore. So yeah, there's obviously a few reasons to be quite fearful, and their attacking talent is just... I don't think there's any better team in the Premier League that you can just rattle out names and you get terrified. Like obviously Aguero, Silva, Jesus, De Bruyne, Silva? No, not Silva. Sterling. Sorry, Sterling's ripped us to shreds so many times. It's almost shameful. So yeah, obviously they've got a huge amount of talent up front to be scared of. We've got to defend well. We did okay last time we played them actually. We lost 2-0 at home, and even though we were well beaten, we weren't beaten 4-0 or 5-1 or 4-0. So, small steps and all that. Yeah, they're a pretty terrifying outfit, I won't lie. I remember that game we lost 4-0 at home to them, not last season but the season before. The game was over after 15 minutes. They just pinned us in and just got 3 goals and they just got the deck chairs out. So hopefully it won't be that bad this weekend, but if we don't start well in this game and if we play as badly as we did against Watford, we will get hammered. There's no doubt about that. I said midfield selections last time, so I'll go a little bit different and go who are we going to play up front. because there's really no one player staking a huge claim. You'd think it'd be Josh King, but no, his last 2 performances have been poor by his standards. He's not taken his form from last season into this season at all. I know he likes to be the main man up front, but even so, his performances have been incredibly disappointing. Against Watford, he just didn't look really interested. Even Mousset made more of an impression, and he only came on for the last 5-10 minutes, I think. So yeah, that said, I think if we play 5 across midfield, which I think we should, probably, I don't know, Sermon, Arter and Lewis Cook I imagine it would be, but who knows. I think King probably would be the best option, even with his current form, because Benicophobe can sometimes he just doesn't really turn up or look at any kind of a threat. He's been dealt with very easily by the best defences I've found. Against the lower defences he can get joy with his physicality, but sometimes he just goes missing in games. Jermaine Defoe, I'm not sure if he's ready to start. Obviously he started against Birmingham, but whether he could play up front on his own in a game against Man City where we're going to get very few chances, I'm not sure. But that said, obviously Jermaine Defoe is a pretty lethal finisher, so if he was the one up there, you would hope he would take any of the scraps we get in terms of chances created. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see who we play up front. With Eddie Howe, obviously he's a pretty stubborn guy. I mean, he's got this far with it, so I can't really complain. But I imagine he probably will play 4-4-2, and he probably will play King and Afobe up front again. But really, I don't know. So that's what makes it interesting. I would personally play 4-5-1 with King up front, but you know, I'm not the manager, am I? So yeah, score prediction. I can't really go with anything else but a defeat, I'm afraid. I think we're going to lose. Hopefully we won't get hammered. I think we're going to lose 3-1. I'm going to see the first live goal that Bournemouth scored against Manchester City in the Premier League. I've seen 3 of our previous 4 games live, and I missed the 5-1. So hopefully this time I get to see us finally score against Man City. But I think their attacking riches will just be too much for us in the end. But yeah, more importantly, I want to hear what you think. So yeah, a few people have got in touch, so thanks so much. You can get in touch with the show on Twitter, AFCB Analysis, on Facebook, facebook.com/AFCB Analysis, and even email me at afcbanalysis@gmail.com. And a few people have got in touch with me, and one of them is Brendan Guy on Twitter, and he says, "A loss, but not a hammering. Man City aren't firing yet, and Begovic is looking good." I mean, I would hope that's the case, but I mean, Man City weren't firing last season when we played them. No, wait, not that season. The season before, when they couldn't score for love or money away from home. I remember they drew 0-0 at relegated Norwich, and they looked terrible. And the next away game, they just pummeled us 4-0. So, as much as I'd love to take past form of Man City into account, I think it's going to be tough either way. I think it's all down to us whether we get hammered or not. If the team play well and put everything into it, we won't get hammered, I don't think. But, you know, we'll see. Robbie, known as Korsikov on Twitter, also got in touch, and to get a result he said, "We need to go 5 in midfield, otherwise we will be totally overrun. Even so, expect a 2 or 3 goal defeat." Great minds think alike, that's pretty much what I said, I think. Yeah, 5 in midfield, it has to be. Strictly AFCB on Instagram got in touch. I mean, he commented on YouTube, but I'll plug his Instagram account for you here. He said he thinks it will be 3-0 to City. Obviously, past form would seem to suggest that would be the case, but I would hope that we can get off the mark in the Premier League and finally score. And then finally, on Facebook, Alex Rennie said, in terms of how we can get a result, he said, "A meteorite needs to hit the City team bus on the way to the stadium," which is nice. He's not actually an AFC Bournemouth fan, so I don't know why I'm even including his quote here. But it does actually bring me on to a new feature I'm going to be putting on this channel every now and then, which is Opposition View. And it's going to be basically me talking to a fan of the club we're about to play. So that aforementioned Alex Rennie, I interviewed him, and you can see that here. Might be turning up somewhere around my head, I don't know, somewhere. So yeah, click on that if you want to listen to that, what he thinks of Bournemouth, what he thinks of the game. And then I also quiz him on AFC Bournemouth and Manchester City related trivia, so you can have a go at that as well if you think you can do better than him. Wouldn't be hard. So yeah, that's all for this preview. A bit of a negative one, but you can't really be surprised considering our recent performances. But thanks so much for watching, and up the cherries in all departments.